Paul Manafort arriving at the Northern Neck Regional Jail in Warsaw, Virginia last night. He's the first Trump campaign official to be jailed as part of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. So here to discuss, opinion editor for Deseret News, Boyd Matheson. Thank you so much for joining us, Boyd. First and foremost, I want to sort of lay the groundwork for our conversation. We have the IG report that came out this week. It should be wholly separated from the Mueller investigation, correct?
That's correct, Liz. And so many people are conflating the whole thing into one thing. The IG report is specific to the process that was followed. That's what it's really judging. And obviously there were a host of things. It's very ironic that you come out with all of these things that show bias, and then there is no bias in the end. So it's sort of an interesting landing.
That's what I want to sort of go to my next question is the president really seems to be attacking Mueller, sort of a fresh round of attacks on Friday, as if he has something to hide. But that being said, these investigations take time, but he is starting to feel the heat or hear more criticisms, especially when you hear from the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
Right. And so I think the thing you're seeing is that obviously everyone's getting a little anxious that let's get to the bottom of this. Let's get to the end of the investigation. These investigations spend tens of millions of dollars. They cast very wide nets. There hasn't been anything yet that has really produced anything that shows anything about collusion. There's a lot in terms of interference, and we've known that the Russians have tried to interfere. And this is where I think it all lands, Liz. I think what happens is we end up with this distrust, this division, and real divisive rhetoric around it, which is what the Russians want, by the way. But the other problem is that it also creates distrust in the American people. And I think that's the one thing we haven't talked enough about, is this undermining public trust. Our trust in our government institutions has never been lower. But that's also spreading over and starting to fray the fabric of society. It used to be that if people were asked, is your neighbor trustworthy, 68 or 70% would say yes. Now only 22%. And so we're becoming much more tribal. We're becoming much more distrustful, and that's what is going to undermine the American people. And that's something I think we have to address. And while the IG report is important because that's the process piece that should give the American people trust that whatever the Mueller investigation comes up with, people can actually take stock in it, that it is trustworthy.
You know, I think, and I agree with you. I want to play a quick soundbite from Christopher Wray, who's now leading up the FBI. I want you to take a listen to what he said, because I think it goes along pretty nicely with what you're saying. Take a listen.
I take this report very seriously, and we accept its findings and recommendations. It's also important, though, to note what the Inspector General did not find. This report did not find any evidence of political bias or improper considerations actually impacting the investigation under review.
You can already see sort of the campaign to say, look, trust us. There are good people who are trying to do what they are hired to do. That being said, as we continue on this investigation, if we do see, let's say, a subpoena for the president, where is this going?
Yeah, I think the trust factor is going to continue to be the problem because, again, remember what we heard from Comey going through his part even with Hillary Clinton. He said there's all of these bad things, awful things, but trust me, there's nothing to see here. And so I think for the IG to go through that same path of there's bias, but there's really nothing to see here, that's going to be part of the challenge. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch on Monday, and what viewers should be watching for as he appears before the Senate committee first is going to be, what does that really mean? Because I think it is a chance for the IG to really say, yes, there is some trust and we need to watch this moving forward. I think there's going to be a lot of members of the Senate on both sides of the aisle that are going to have some tough questions rolling into Monday.
All right. Boyd Matheson with the very latest on everything that's going on in a preview of what's ahead for next week. Thank you for joining us, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Liz.